towards absolution. You know how far west we are?
Maybe he's a dummy.
Is there a reason you're not answering my question?
Look here, Pa. He's got iron on his wrist. He's been shot. Could be done broke out of the hooscow. Might be worth bounty money.
Might could be. It's not your lucky day, stranger. Turn around and start walking. I said turn around and start walking.
Welcome to Franchise Killer, a podcast where we pick movie franchises or wannabe franchises, review them film by film, and see where things went wrong. All right. That is the southern drawl of Daniel Craig.
Why, yes, sir, it is.
Laura.
Well, maybe not quite Daniel Craig, but something.
Something.
It is my theory that the director told Daniel Craig to speak less in this movie because maybe his accent wasn't great.
Yeah, that doesn't quite work out, Daniel. Try it again. Why, all right then, sir. No,
not that one.
Can you just stay quiet this time?
Actually, yeah, stay quiet.
Just look intimidating.
You know, like Clint Eastwood.
Like
Yeah.
a
Classic, silent.
Less is more.
like your Bond.
You had to get some practice in for Knives Out, so.
The Louisiana drawl.
That's something peak.
Going with Louisiana drawl when we don't even know where this is.
There's aliens, though.
It's in New Mexico.
Hey, I believe you have a alien voice, David. Can you show us what that sounds like?
Is that the one?
What was that? I think that was a stroke.
He has
That's
many
Pig
alien
Latin, I'm pretty
voices.
sure.
Editor, can we
All right, our podcast now only has 4 members.
I've been X'd.
Anyway, that person who did the embarrassing alien Stitch voice is
David.
the completely respectable host that did a honest Southern accent is me, Reese. To my
Irina.
left is. She didn't even want me to introduce.
I don't have anything.
That Southern Belle over there.
Oh, no.
And way over there in dumb F nowhere is.
Well, I have the honor of being named Jed.
The
That's
honor.
me.
Honor.
Was that your father's name?
Well, my father's name was Jeb.
What's that short for, Jed?
Oh no, it's just Jed.
It's short for Jedediah.
Can you spell that for me?
G.
Geod.
Geod.
Actually, that might be someone's spelling of it somewhere.
We lost our one listener.
They're like, oh, hell.
Oh hell! I'm not listening to Franchise Killer no more.
They're making fun of me.
Hey
Someone's on the
Jed,
hooch.
you're on the podcast.
Anyway, way off yonder we have.
Howdy. It's
Howdy?
AJ.
Maybe.
I so apologize. That was 5 minutes of just indecipherable nonsense. But we're going with it because this is our second take on Cowboys and Aliens, a movie that was recorded once for an episode, and we lost it, unfortunately, due
Lost
to
in the void.
Dynamite.
technical difficulties. So this is take 2. So I apologize if this is a bit fast and loose, a bit unfocused, but we're still going to go for it.
We're going to have fun with it.
Yeah, I said it already. We're talking about Cowboys and Aliens. It's a movie that came out in 2011. It's directed by Jon Favreau, who also directed Maid, Elf, Zathura, Iron Man 1 and 2, The Jungle Book, Chef, The Lion King, and The Mandalorian on Disney Plus.
Wait, this is the guy who did Zathura?
Yes.
Dude,
Classic.
my
Iconic.
favorite.
Wait, were
I know.
you working at the theater at the time when it was?
People are going to hate us for how many David references we
Wait,
have.
Cowboys
No, we
and
love it.
Aliens?
What year did this come out?
Is that a subtitle for
2011.
Space Cowboys?
I did.
AJ, what'd you watch?
Space Cowboys. It's cowboys in space. Like,
He has a point, you know.
Okay, it's closer than some of your other ones, but I'm still gonna have to relegate you to probably the end of the episode. You can speak on that film if you want, but if you could just stay quiet.
I'll
Not
allow
quite as
it.
bad as Scrooge McDuck, to be fair.
it has Clint Eastwood, doesn't it?
It does.
Sure. Yeah.
Anyway, the film stars Daniel Craig, Harrison Ford, Olivia Wilde, Sam Rockwell, and Paul Dano, with a screenplay from Robert Orsi, Alex Kurtzman, Damon Lindelof, Mark Fergus, and Hawk Ostby. That's a name. The film is based off Scott Mitchell Rosenberg's graphic novel of the same name. It's my third beer, guys. I apologize.
Apologize.
Same comic group
Stop.
that did Men in Black.
Yes, and
It's crazy.
if I recall, this graphic novel wasn't even completed by the time this movie was put into production. Is that correct?
So I think the story goes that the writer of the comic book hadn't even made the comic book yet, but he was pitching the concept. And when he did finally release the comic book, the rights were bought to the story ahead of time. And when it was released, they were sold $5 less than what a normal comic book was, just to bump up the sale rate. And so it looked, on the surface, more popular than it actually was. So then they sped up production of this film.
Seems like Snake
Cool.
Oil to me.
Did it work?
Just
Hola,
throw in a
hoopla.
whole bunch of Western little jokes like
Yeah,
that.
the
guys, I
comic
got an
wasn't
idea.
received that well either. It's pretty
Yeah,
mediocre.
it wasn't. Yeah.
What if, like, Close Encounters, but in the Western times?
That would be good.
All right, John Favreau, what do you want?
I want $175 million
I like how
It's Jon
Jon
Favreau.
Favreau is really southern.
and a sequel.
I'm just imagining
gosh.
him as this director that just goes through phases of, getting really into whatever genre that he's focused on at the time.
Sounds like my dad.
Takes on an accent and everything.
For what it's worth, though, Jon Favreau seems like the most honest, nice,
He is.
kind.
He's great.
I'm being redundant, nice and kind, but I've heard nothing but good things from people that work with him on set.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I do feel kind of bad that this movie.
I feel like his movies are either, oh, that was really good, or just kind of middle of the road.
I mean,
Yeah.
to be fair, this isn't a bad movie. It's just not a great movie.
Yeah.
The fact that he was able to pitch this movie to so many A-list actors and get them on board,
It's Jon
speaks for
Favreau.
him.
He's a great
Yeah.
guy.
Almost
He was coming
RDJ.
for. Yes.
Yeah.
I can't remember where I learned this, but RDJ actually got Jon Favreau into it.
You
and,
know where you learned this?
Is it you?
From the first recording of
yeah,
this
that's
episode.
that is where I learned that.
I actually learned this.
No, I said.
I don't know where I heard it.
There was no false statement in that. You did learn
Yeah,
it.
it's true. but-
It's
So
true.
let's tell
little
the gracious
misleading, maybe.
listeners what we're actually supposed to be talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on this podcast, we first go over our thoughts on the film before revisiting it for the episode. Then we dive into the story, break it down bit by bit, and talk about the more significant moments. Then towards the end of the show, we give our brief reviews and numbered scores, along with an analysis on the health of the franchise and whether or not this film hurt it. So guys, why am I even asking? We've all seen Cowboys and Aliens.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
We have.
Multiple times.
I was
couple
working at the
times.
movie theater.
Yeah, you were.
That's
How-
it.
Yeah.
I do.
You can't take the
I do
wind
wanna
out
ask,
of our wings.
Do you
David.
remember if audiences enjoyed this or not?
I don't remember, and that must mean it didn't do very well, because when you worked there, you did know when things did well. I don't remember it being there that long either, so I don't
It
think it
was
did very
in
well.
and out.
So are y'all ready to get into the
Yes.
story of this
Oh,
film?
yeah.
Let's do
Yeehaw.
it.
I need to know where you came from.
So do I.
We need you.
is that thing? Why are you asking me? Because you shot it. We need every gun we can get. And they're gonna wipe us out.
Who is she?
She's the only one who knows who I am.
You know who you are. You just have to remember.
Grab your guns. We're riding out. We get our people!
We have one advantage. They underestimate you.
Should we step in? Looks like he's doing fine.
All right, AJ, talk about that story. Or tell the story. Read the story. I don't know.
Just decide.
Words out of mouth.
Words don't make sense.
In 1873 New Mexico territory, an injured man awakens in the desert with a strange metal bracelet attached to his left wrist and no memory. He wanders into the town of Absolution, where preacher Meacham treats his wounds. Sheriff John Taggart recognizes the stranger as wanted outlaw Jake Lonergan and attempts to arrest him. Jake nearly escapes, but a woman named Ella Swinson knocks him out. Taggart and his men prepare to transport both Jake and the young troublemaking Percy Dollarhide to Santa Fe for trial. Colonel Woodrow Dollarhide, a ruthless cattle baron, arrives with armed men and demands his son be released. He also wants Jake to be turned over to him for stealing gold from him. During the standoff, alien craft begin attacking the town. Percy, Taggart, and other townsfolk are abducted by long whip-like feelers hanging from the bottom of the ships. Jake's bracelet inexplicably activates and transforms, becoming a weapon. He shoots down a ship, ending the attack. Dollarhide, Ella, and other townsfolk form a posse to track an injured alien that escaped from the downed ship. Meanwhile, Jake travels to an abandoned cabin nearby and has a flash of memory. He recalls returning to it with stolen gold and then being abducted by the aliens, along with a woman named Alice. Pursuing the fragmented clues of his identity, Jake rejoins the posse. During the evening, they come upon a capsized paddle wheel steamboat. They camp inside it. During the night, an alien kills Meacham, who sacrifices himself to save the young boy Emmett.
All right.
Alrighty.
So if you haven't noticed, we're kind of bunching up paragraphs in this episode. Kind of bear with us. We apologize, but we just got to get a lot of information in a short span of time.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Just to kind of keep the energy
So
up.
let's talk actors. We got Daniel Craig here. We have Clancy Brown. We have Paul
Harrison
Dano
Ford.
and Harrison Ford.
Since we're like diving headfirst into Westerns, I'm starting to notice that, for context, we have actually covered the film. We've talked about the film that we're talking about after this one, before this episode, and there's kind of a common theme with this silent protagonist who is
The man
filled
with no
with
name.
mystery.
Yeah.
And in his case, he's forgotten his memory, so he literally doesn't know who he is. But that's the kind of approach that Jon Favreau is taking here with Daniel Craig or Jake Lonergan. You wonder, he wakes up in the desert, doesn't know where he is, and the memories start to slowly flash back to him. How do we feel about Daniel Craig's performance, and do we think he's a solid leading man for this movie?
I think he's one of those that this is sort of a simple role to play, which can be effective if the other characters around them are complex enough. So I think a leading role like his, a silent one, can act as a good driving force to just further the plot, while everyone around can kind of dance in their own character a little bit.
Yes.
So
He's the
I
kind
think,
of get stuff done.
yeah, so to break away from his 007 role, which happened before this character is supposed to be, at least he seems a little more cavalier and calculated, whereas I think we talked before about how his portrayal of Bond was
More animal
bordering
instinct.
on the kind of rash, but still intelligent.
Yeah, he's a bit of a brute
Yeah, which is really weird.
who just run headfirst into every
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah.
I feel like here he's trying to almost emulate Eastwood's performance as the man with no name in the Dollars trilogy, which is pretty iconic and sets the bar for westerns.
Yes.
But in this context, it's hard to reconcile someone without a past, someone without a overly charismatic identity, but then also try to explore their history and identity and the amnesia aspect. It kind of conflicts with itself, I feel like.
Yeah.
Plus, he's
I
got
would
a
agree.
constant smolder, which I don't know. That's not quite as good
He's
as
like, I'm
squinty
hot
eyes.
and I
Yeah, he's
know
not
it.
squinting enough.
Also, characters like this in a central role, it's a tricky tightrope to balance because
Yeah.
they either come off as boring because they have no personality, no memory. You don't really know what to latch onto as an audience member.
Yeah.
Or they can be very interesting in the case of Wolverine,
Yeah.
who
Gosh,
his lack of memory is fascinating because his personality is still on full display. Like
Yes.
you get a sense of who his character is. Jake Lonergan, I feel like, is he's kind of cardboard in my opinion. Mm-hmm. He's not bad. He's not a huge detriment to the film, but I think this movie, because of him, sort of lacks a pulse,
Yeah.
or at least something that really gets you to want to root for him in this mission.
Add on to what you're saying. In fact, all of the characters in this almost seem to be an echo of past characters that have been played before.
They're all
to the point where
archetypes.
they aren't really the actor adding their own flair, except I might say Harrison Ford, who just looks like he's having a good time.
Well, Olivia Wilde's character was pretty different.
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing.
I would say Paul Dano and Sam Rockwell are the more interesting characters in this, and they're so kind of pushed to the side. But they have I feel like they're clearly defined and interesting.
I always like Sam Rockwell. Everything I see him in, he's just enjoyable to watch.
I know, he always seems like in films like this, he's hamming it up, but
Yeah.
in the right way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just feel like I like a lot of these actors. I like their work. But in this film, there are so many of them that kind of, they're all almost promised screen time, but not enough of that screen time to really develop who they are. Mm-hmm. Like Olivia Wilde, sure, her character Ella, I think her name's Ella, is unique, but you don't really get to explore that at all. She's just kind of there with the big blue eyes and this
She's mysterious.
unnatural.
Yeah, she's just the
aspect
mechanism
of
for the
her.
twist later on.
Yeah, and
And who conveniently revives after she's dead, after she's been put in a fire.
well, yeah, we're not to that point
I
yet.
think we are, aren't we?
No,
No?
but we
No,
are
yeah, we're not there.
Oh.
up
thought we-
to the upturned paddle boat
Well,
scene.
then, never mind.
I will say she is a notch above your typical damsel in distress that
Yeah.
you find in certain Western movies like
And
this.
I'll agree with that.
Yeah. Still, though, and I know it's revealed that she's something other than human, but she definitely stands out as,
yeah.
I don't know, just different.
Yeah. You know, she's kind of a boring character. I don't really find her interesting. I mean, her backstory's more interesting than most characters in the same role, but not so much
Yeah.
her herself.
Her and Daniel Craig, I don't feel like are the most interesting characters.
Yeah.
And yeah, I definitely agree with you.
I feel
there.
like Favreau's almost trying to rely too much on action to compel the story forward when we need a little bit of character development in the beginning.
Yes.
Where I think we talked
Yeah.
about how the alien abduction and attack kind of happens really quickly, almost before we're established, baseline. Like I liked being introduced to Percy. Paul Dano did an excellent job giving that character performance of this snot-nosed bratty kid, and it's really satisfying to see Lonergan just knee him in the groin and then push him down.
Yes.
And Clancy
that
Brown
little
as
head
Meacham
push.
really sells his character as the that genial, helpful soul. So
it's sad that he's kind of marked from death from the very beginning.
yeah,
though.
we see him lost already, and then we're just left with the guys that are just kind of there and trying to act grisly and tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, although
See,
Meacham provides almost that overarching theme throughout the rest of the movie
Yeah.
of, your past is your past and what you make of the future is what really matters.
Yeah.
That's why you should have stuck around for longer.
Yeah.
Had more
Yeah.
effect.
Speaking of that theme,
that's-
you've got the town of Absolution. It's like kind of redemption, the almost born again. I mean, Jake Lonergan almost sounds like born again.
Forgiveness
Yeah.
of sins.
Yeah. So, and then him finding his identity after being a criminal in his past and trying to start fresh.
Yeah.
It's this is a movie that's kind of trying to tackle several themes and paths at the same time, but kind of chopping it up in a way where they're all integrated at strange moments. Like there's the whole Jake Lonergan not remembering what happened to him. That's a mystery. I guess we'll find out. Then there's Ella, who is a little mysterious. Don't really know why she's here, except something happened to her family or something.
We don't even know that.
And now you have aliens showing up. Then we don't really know exactly if Harrison Ford's character is a good guy, bad guy. I guess he's a good guy.
I want to add to that.
Yeah.
I actually think Dollarhide, the subversion of that character in this, is the most interesting thing about this movie. Because this movie plays like your typical Western in the first, I want to say 25% of the movie, apart from Daniel Craig or Jake Lonergan having the wrist weapon.
The Pit Boy.
Dollarhide in any other Western would be your main villain.
Yeah.
If not for the aliens, which then he earns a redemption arc. He earns a new lease on being a different type of man.
Yeah.
I guess you could say he found absolution.
Yeah. I'm fascinated by how this plays like a simplified Western in the first 25% of this movie.
Yeah.
And how it just kind of just turns all that on its head when the aliens finally arrive. And Dollarhide, he's no longer your cliched Western villain. He's suddenly an ally that you have to team up with because, hey, there's a bigger threat in this world now. So I found that actually quite interesting.
Yeah.
And this movie could have been far more compelling as a story if Jake Lonergan was almost your red herring where you think he is the protagonist you're following when instead it's actually Dollarhide's story that you're supposed to be engaging in overall.
Yeah.
And I just feel like there wasn't enough focus on one character or another for you to really get behind anyone.
Yeah. No, you're right. It's not a very focused movie, and
I just think the main issue with this movie doesn't really take any leaps. It doesn't try and do anything really ambitious. And on almost every level, it's generic.
yeah, it thinks it's being ambitious on concept alone.
Yeah.
But really, like, that is it's an interesting idea. Cowboys and aliens, cool idea. But then you have to make us or realize that idea in a new way. Because basically what we get here is...
capitalizing on a gimmick.
Yeah, what we get is, this is a typical Western mixed with a typical alien story.
Yeah.
And they don't make either one exceptional in any way because they're too focused on trying to blend the two worlds or the two genres in a convincing way. So it just ends
Like
up...
oil and water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't really blend it.
I would disagree. I think they do blend. I just think that they don't make either one exceptional.
Yeah.
I think
it's... Yeah, go ahead, AJ.
Well, like Reese, you said, it's the lack of focus. I think they're trying to jam too many sub-themes in there. You've got the redemption arc. You've got trying to do the mystery of who Lonergan is. Later we'll talk about, the father figure of Dollarhide. And then the kind of allegory for Native Americans and, European invasion and that kind of stuff that's flipped is with the aliens or the invaders now. It's just trying to do too much, and it doesn't, focus on anything well in particular. And you're in a new genre, trying to explore that. It's biting off more than it can chew.
Yeah. And then spitting it out after it's done chewing.
On a positive note, it does do visuals very well.
Oh, yeah.
Just about to bring that up.
Attack, the alien invasion, the ships, the plasma bolts, and Lonergan's wrist rocket. I mean, they're all cool weapons, and it looks great. I think this was nominated for an Academy Award for visuals. I think it lost to Transformers Dark of the Moon, if I remember correctly. Ew. But it does look great, even though it holds up.
From what I heard, Jon Favreau was being pushed to do a 3D format, but he completely resisted that because he was really into wanting to be authentically kind of replicating things like Stagecoach and classic Westerns. And so instead they went for the anamorphic style film, which makes for very beautiful shots, and it's more of an aesthetic thing these days.
It is very aesthetically pleasing overall.
I will say one thing they're
looks
missing
good
though
together.
is a top-notch score. Right now, anybody on the podcast, someone hum the theme of this movie.
I do know it's disappointing for Henry Gregson Williams coming from Narnia and things like that. He's no slouch at composing music, and
Yeah, this guy knows what he's doing.
but it's not
You
memorable,
can't
like you
hum
said.
the theme.
I do have something to say about that, though. Usually in a movie that you don't really revere very well, you don't notice the music either. And it doesn't mean that the music is bad necessarily. I think it just more means that your focus isn't in it and you're not attached to it. Therefore, you never had the inspiration to try and listen. This was good music.
I agree, but I also think if you did go back and listen to this, it's not really going to blow your mind.
I know.
It's like generic
agree.
Western music that fits what's happening.
Yeah.
But
follow-
it does not.
To follow
Yeah.
that, a mediocre to above average movie can be pushed over the edge to a great movie if it's supported by an amazing soundtrack. I mean,
That's
Exactly.
true.
I
we
would
see
agree.
that with Morricone's score. I mean, it's transcendent, I would say. Not that the Dollars trilogy are bad movies, but Morricone's score definitely puts it above and
Elevated it.
beyond. This, we don't have any support from the score to inject emotion, to help prop it up for the
Yeah.
flaws, to smooth things over. So
Yeah.
That
it's
is
kind of a
very
make or
good
break point with music is, if you don't notice it, great, but it's also not helping when it could really use all the help it can get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
So I do want to quickly touch on the first alien abduction sequence where the Western hits the sci-fi head on. Do we feel like this integration is successful in this action sequence here?
Yes and no.
So something I had brought up when we were first talking about this was how sudden the invasion is, and that's not a bad thing. That could be really effective, but I felt kind of disappointed. Oh no, not yet. I wanted them to draw out the Western feel and develop those characters just a smidge longer before all mayhem lets loose.
Yeah.
They really could have drawn out the anticipation. I mean, the way they showed the lights, it's similar to what you brought up. It was, what was the original Alien movie that was based off of? It was,
Close Encounters.
yeah, Close Encounters. The way they showed the lights off in the distance, and
Yeah.
that part of North America and the U.S. where people do see those kind of lights in that style all the time, they could have really drawn that out and really built that anticipation.
They could have had. I would have actually loved if the aliens actually full on arrived in this movie at the halfway mark. We could have had just your typical Western movie, but there's these moments of intrigue, like these little vignettes where people have slight little encounters and word spreads throughout the town, and then it ends up erupting in this all-out alien abduction sequence.
So going off kind of in that direction, I know I sound like a broken record.
How many
as far
movies?
as
Nothing.
How many
Go
movies?
ahead.
No, not that. I, in general, like to have a little more suspense, a little more mystery, or
You wanna
at
be
least in this
teased.
kind of in a kind of film that introduces that kind of aspect to it. I like for it to go more in that direction.
So like Close Encounters.
Yes, but one of the movies that does this actually perfectly, where you'd think on the surface, oh, this is just like an action alien movie, whatever. War of the Worlds.
Yeah, even
That
though
has that
the invasion.
perfect suspense
The invasion
that-
happens almost right off the bat in that
Yeah.
movie, though. But yeah, it does that perfectly. The,
Yeah,
the
the-
horror of it is there.
Exactly.
Whereas
Like,
it's
immersive.
lacking in this movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
It
Speaking
absolutely
of
is. You
War of
see
Worlds.
people getting zapped and vaporized, and whenever you see something or someone vaporized in a movie, you normally think, oh, whatever, they're vaporized, alien tech. But in that
Yeah.
one, it's actually horrifying
So
because
Yeah.
What
he's
you're
got all their powder all over his body and like.
what you're picking up on is that what that movie does well is it grounds you in reality first, and then
Yeah.
throws this horror into the mix,
So-
and that's why you're able to feel it so strongly.
That's a good
and
point.
this movie tries to do that in certain moments, but it's too late because
Yeah.
it's already established a kind of a more light. This movie's not lighthearted, but it is more of a.
the tone,
It-
tonally,
the
it's pretty
tone
lighthearted.
does
Yeah.
feel somewhat lighthearted. Like
I would say the moments where he has flashbacks to his wife they try to play on that horror aspect a little bit. It is horrific in a little scene there, but you still don't get the sense of, just as AJ put it, how oppressive these aliens are.
Right.
And you take it back to kind of just the beginning when he's visiting that town. And this isn't a negative scene, because I actually enjoyed the scene to begin with, but it automatically sets that tone of it being kind of comedic.
Yeah.
And that's whenever he kicks the snotty-nosed brat's balls and then, like, pushes him over. See, that right there is funny in and of itself, and it's enjoyable because you wanted to see that guy get knocked out. But at the same time, it does set a lighthearted tone because they're doing ball tap jokes.
Yeah, you wouldn't see that in War of the Worlds.
Yeah.
So before we move on in the plot, let's quickly talk about how the Dollarhides and the Lonergan and a couple of other stragglers pull together a posse to go out and try to retrieve all of their fellow abducted family members / friends, and how this all kind of ends up in this upturned steamboat sequence where we come face to face with the aliens.
So this is when they really start developing Dollarhide's character from a villain into a family man, a good fatherly figure.
I would say he's not quite there. He's still pretty much an a-hole to the
I saw you looking at my knife. You like it?
That's true.
Do you like it?
I like it.
Here, it's yours. Kill something with it.
Okay, yes. There's that one moment.
But
true.
then right after that, he tells his Native American ranch hand that he tells him he treated him like he would always listen to his stories that he would tell Percy. He's like, I don't recollect telling you any stories. Just completely dismissing this guy that's apparently idolizing him for who knows why. But
no, he still totally sucks. But he's showing there's a slight development there of a more sensitive side.
Hey, he took him in as a kid. That was enough.
Yeah. I do really like this steamboat sequence. I'm still iffy on the design of the aliens. I know they were inspired by turtles and all sorts of other things.
And it's not even just the design. It's kind of their nature is too brute force to be able to have
and
as high-tech.
And they're not that intimidating looking.
Yeah.
There's something about them where it's like, yeah, they're kind of cool looking. Yeah. But I don't know.
It's like in a video game where you see a huge horde of monsters. You're like, all right, time to get my assault rifle out and just like you're not afraid of them. You're just
random,
like gonna mow them down.
I stand by it. The villains in Galaxy Quest were more scary,
intimidating.
They actually, in a weird way.
Costumes.
These guys, I think the problem is they expose their vulnerability too quickly. Because they've already been defeated by Lonergan's wrist plasma gun, whatever. And now it tries to attack the kid, but then it opens up its chest and there's its vulnerability right there. And it's kind of back and forth on, these aliens can only be killed by this plasma gun or, a well-placed shot to the head, but then, it gets scared off by a couple shots to the shoulder, and it's just kind of all over the place. They're not intimidating, like you said. They show their vulnerability. I think some of that was maybe unintentional because I think the design aspect, they tried to make them look like they're distressed on a foreign, land. They're the advanced guard, they're the scouts, as they're referred to later on. So they obviously look like they've been through the works and trying to survive and scramble. So I think that didn't really come across clearly. It just made them seem weak.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think some of there are definitely design flaws with those, but from what I had looked into, it really is kind of amazing how much people put into these creatures they design when they get their heads together. And I remember reading that one of the significant features they wanted to incorporate was how are these aliens affected by living or working on Earth. And one of them was when they would get wounds, they would develop this kind of fungus around the wounds that was kind of yellowish, and that's as a result of living on the planet. And so it's something that grows on them while they're there. So just little details like that I wouldn't have even noticed unless someone told me.
Right.
because I think the rendering of these aliens, while cool, there's so much action and so much visual stimulus going on that I don't even really get a chance to really admire them,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, they weren't really developed enough.
I would say it does not seem practical that they would have these undeveloped arms that kind of come out of their carapace in the opening that kind of exposes their heart to whoever might have a stabby weapon in their hands.
I think those, in my
foreshadowing.
opinion, are probably used for fine work, like not really meant for big lumbering jobs or anything. That's because they're such bulky creatures. They probably need something smaller to kind of do the fine details on whatever
Maybe
alien
that's
projects they have.
They genetically mutated themselves. Like, all right, dude, I'm tired.
Yeah.
I can't sew. My hands are too big.
Here,
They're like, I have an idea.
these
I'm
little
trying to do
lobby
my
hands.
deadlifts, and I also want to sew this lovely sweater.
I do appreciate some of the style. Like, you do get the aggression when the first attack, you know, when they're rounding up the townspeople, they're using like lasso-like whips. So it does blend the style a little bit that way with the genre, instead of, you know, your typical tractor beam, you know, hovering people up into the ship. And we didn't get any kind of goofy thing like Harrison Ford other alien movie, Crystal Skull, with just like this cerebral psychic alien. Like, I'm glad they didn't go that route. I do like that they went with the aggressive kind of bestial alien. It's just
want to know.
it didn't land for you know, a couple different reasons.
Yeah.
So before we carry on with the plot, Meacham dies, which we all knew this was going to happen.
Yeah.
But I like Clancy Brown. I like seeing that actor in movies.
He's so great.
Yeah.
The
it's
Kurgan.
It's good to see his face. We all knew he was dying, so no big surprise. Mm-hmm. It's something that needed to happen to get Sam Rockwell. What's his name? I don't know that character's name. Bartender dude.
Bartender
I think they
dude.
call him Doc. Or no, wait.
Doc.
Yeah. Get
Yeah,
Doc
it
to
says Doc.
Doc to feel something and
Yeah.
find some reason to press on. But yeah, that was pretty expected.
Indeed.
By morning, most of the posse has deserted, and Jake's former gang attacks the remainder. Jake, who stole the gang's loot after his last heist, attempts to retake control, but is foiled. The aliens attack again and abduct Ella. Jake jumps aboard the ship and attacks the alien pilot, causing the ship to crash in a river. The pilot survives the crash and attacks Ella, fatally wounding her, before Jake kills it with his wrist blaster. The remaining posse is captured by Chiricahua Apaches, who blame them for the alien attacks. After Ella's corpse is dumped on a fire by a Chiricahua warrior, she is suddenly resurrected and emerges from the fire. Ella reveals herself to be from another alien race who had traveled to Earth to help resist the invaders after they destroyed her own homeworld. The aliens, who are mining gold and abducting people to conduct experiments on them, have superior weaponry and are far stronger and more durable than humans. Only Jake's wrist weapon, or a well-aimed shot with a rifle, can kill them with a single shot. Ella tells them that the previous attackers were just scouts. She also claims Jake holds the secret to the aliens' whereabouts and argues that they must defeat the invaders before they exterminate all life on Earth. After taking medicine offered by the Apache's medicine man, Jake's memory returns. He recalls watching Alice get vivisected and euthanized. He escaped by stealing the bracelet encasing his wrist. He also remembers the location of the aliens' base of operations, their landed mothership.
How convenient.
I was going to say the same thing.
So, first let's start with the canyon ambush. Walton Goggins is in this movie for a couple of minutes.
I really like him.
Yeah.
Yeah, him meeting his old gang almost didn't really further the plot at all.
No.
They could have been taken out and the plot would have moved along, the story would have moved along.
Exactly.
It gave him the manpower later, though.
Yeah, it was like, okay, I get why this needs to happen, but it's honestly inconsequential.
Yeah, they should have just had that manpower to begin with from Dollarhide's gang.
Yeah,
They
they
should have
could've
just
done
had a
lot.
huge gang.
Yeah,
It was also to progress sort of Jake Lonergan's past, it seemed like, because they were juggling so many different
Yeah.
sort of plot
which by
points
this
that,
point,
you know,
I feel like I don't really care. You know, I'm just like he's got a weapon on his arm and he's a silent cowboy.
There he
That's
is.
all.
do we need
no,
more, to be honest?
I don't know.
I always wonder, like, okay, why did you follow this guy?
I will say that the one moment that I actually felt more for Jake Lonergan's character was when Ella gets shot and he's having to carry her basically across this wilderness to get help. Yeah. And she essentially dies in his arms. But I think throughout the movie, they didn't do this as well as they could have, but it's sort of implied that he sees someone he used to know kind of embodied in her a little bit. And so she's like his surrogate old girlfriend. And that kind of creates this weird connection that he has with her. And by this point, his character actually shows the most emotion I've ever seen in him throughout the entire film.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I wondered,
it was effective.
Which doesn't say much.
I wondered that myself because I almost conflated all the female characters in this, unfortunately, because I guess it was just kind of muddled in how he was supposed to be associating his emotions between Ella and between Alice. And I don't know if the prostitute that he killed was that Alice or was that someone else? I don't remember, but it was kind of confusing to me.
Yeah.
Because I guess they were trying to convey that emotionally and it didn't land. And also, I didn't really care for the style that they used because the flashbacks, they used this overblown, overexposed kind of mirage-y effect. It just kind of clashed with the other tone of the movie. And then they used it again when he's carrying Ella through the desert. But it wasn't a flashback, it was current events. And I don't know, it didn't really work for me.
I'll also say this movie does nothing to try and get you to care about his former relationship with Alice. Like all she's there for is to show how horrific the aliens are and basically what they did to her. There's a really uncomfortable flashback of her, moving,
being jostled
back and forth, jostled in a. I know they weren't trying to be suggestive, but that's like where my brain went.
Yeah.
I think it was kind of hard not to. I think they did make it seem that way. I don't know. It seemed it was what they were trying.
But I not once cared about this Alice character because they show maybe one scene in a flashback of them actually interacting, and you really don't get a sense of their relationship other than Jake remembering that this lady was really special to me and we lived on this nice little house on the prairie. That's like all I got from that. So it's just really hard to feel anything.
Yeah.
None of it is bad. It's just,
It's there.
Yeah, it's there. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right.
It's a visual treat. I did like the look of the ships and how they are kind of engaged in dogfights and combat and going through the canyon. Some of those shots are really neat. But yeah, what did you think about their goal of obtaining gold? Did that click with you?
I don't understand it. I wish they had explained why they covet gold and why they apparently need gold. That wasn't clear to me.
The pirates.
I think the only implication here that I can come up with is that, for instance, these aliens are supposed to represent pioneers coming to the New World, and the pioneers here in this movie are supposed to represent Native Americans who were already here. So Native Americans themselves wouldn't really find value in gold or silver, and having these pioneers or gold diggers coming in and we need gold, and killing men over gold wouldn't make sense to them. So that's the only reason I can come up with, is if this is supposed to represent kind of that sort of bewilderment at their need for gold.
Yeah. That makes sense from a symbolic standpoint.
Kind of
But they
harkens
don't
back
really-
to the Aztec gold and El Dorado and that kind of stuff. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
But
They still don't
then
say
that-
why they need it, though.
Yeah,
or why
they're-
yeah.
aliens.
I kind of
though.
took it
Why
that it was
do-
like a fuel source almost that they were run out of on their home planet or they didn't have access
Yeah.
to.
I think the main issue though is that you have to try and think about some reason why they'd
Yeah.
have to. Like, there are many movies in which you can just have the audience watch and realize through visual cues why they need something, but there's no real reason that they show you or tell you that
I feel
they
like
need it.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, in other movies, I feel like this is used and normally it's water that they're trying to find. Like, oh, water is the source of life everywhere, and we need water for X,
Except in
Y, and Z.
science.
And your Earth is 75% water, and that's why we need it. And gold doesn't quite fit in that
Well,
equation.
Hey, but guess what looks cooler than machines sucking up water? Machines sucking up gold.
Give me that. sweet,
Imagine
sweet gold.
you are Jake Lonergan, just brought back a bunch of gold to your wife, and then suddenly it's like, whoop.
I don't have to imagine.
Evaporated.
I don't have to imagine it. I saw it happen.
It was cool. I
Well,
will
no, I
admit,
mean,
it was cool.
imagine you're in his situation.
I
Wouldn't
was like,
that suck?
Look, honey,
Look, honey, the bread I brought home.
and it has gone.
All right, Noah, did you want to expound
was
on
just here.
Ella's resurrection in the fire?
No, I just think it was fan service.
I think it diminishes a moment later on in the movie. I think it's slightly effective, but I wasn't moved by it at all.
Whenever she totally doesn't die later in the movie at the end.
Yeah.
Well, for the resurrection being and her being an alien supposed to be this, pivotal twist in the movie, it's like it has no impact on me. It's just kind of a what
Exactly.
moment instead of, oh wow. It's like, what? Why?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
It's
know,
like, hey, we have to have this sexy moment where Olivia Wilde shows 1 centimeter of her butt crack against a flame. That's what I got from
That's
that
the
scene.
fan service Noah was talking about.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And
I don't mind that so much.
Neither do we.
It bothers me that there isn't enough of a build up to that moment for you to care. And like AJ said, it's just kind of there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
all of
You
a sudden
wonder why.
she's an alien now. So
And we suddenly have all the answers where before we were just kind of wandering around for no reason.
Yep.
Yep.
You know, she explodes later, which means there's fire, which
Yes.
means she might not
Sequel.
be dead.
Sequel.
Where she comes back.
We also get the classic Native Americans having the wonder voodoo magic juice that allows you to remember things when you want to.
It's called peyote.
Oh,
Pretty
also,
much.
sorry, this is I guess a nitpick, but how is it that of all the planets these aliens went to, that Western Earth is the one that defeated them when you have this shape-changing person with technology to get to here, and their planet lost?
But her planet didn't have an alien from another planet to come tell them that those aliens are taking over their planet.
Yeah.
You could say that we...
Or a guy with no name with a wrist rocket.
Right.
I would say what it is the aliens seeing this culture that is much less developed
Yeah.
and taking them for granted. That's what they
Right.
want you to think.
No,
It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
You know what?
But that wrist rocket, that guy just casually set it on the side table, like, oh, this will be fine. Let me just place my tactical nuke here, and
Well, if you put
whatever.
a tactical nuke next to a cricket, would you expect it to put it
Okay,
on
but
its own?
that is not similar.
yeah,
This is-
that's not equivalent.
Well,
or
no,
quite
but
so.
that's kind of what they apparently they see them
okay,
as.
but if
as
they're
like-
if they're actually an intelligent species, they would not see the humans as insects. That's why that logic doesn't hold up.
But they
would
say
see
it,
that
though.
okay, they have cognitive abilities. So it's like putting it next to a chimp. Then that's
I'm
more
gonna-
similar.
I'm gonna give this one to you, Noah. It is.
Like-
I would not.
No!
I would not put my gun next to a chimpanzee.
Yeah,
I just wouldn't. I wouldn't.
exactly.
I wouldn't set it down there.
I know. Like,
can you imagine
So we
though?
got 28 days later.
There you go. It's rage.
but yeah, it's just asking for something to go wrong.
It's
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess that goes with the fact that they're kind of a brute
They're just
force
kind of big and
species.
dumb.
But to
with
answer your other
good
question-
But they
technology.
wouldn't have that technology then. Like,
By the way, the reason the humans can really truly beat them when others can't is because we have true grit.
We can leave them in silence. It's fine.
I'll bask
We
in
should.
it. I'm gonna bask in it.
I thought you were actually gonna go somewhere.
Oh no. Well, I mean,
that-
truly.
Any other thoughts
I
on what
think
we
that's
talked
what we
on
have.
that passage?
No, you can
Nah,
you can
we could
finish out
probably
the story.
All right, let's knock it out. Armed with this knowledge, they plan to attack the alien base. Jake leaves to persuade his old gang to join the fight, while Dollarhide takes command of the original group and the Apaches. After the combined groups maneuver the aliens into a ground battle, Jake and Ella board the ship and free the captives, but Jake is captured. Dollarhide rescues him, and both men escape from the ship after killing the alien responsible for Alice's death. The ship takes off as the remaining aliens flee Earth, but Ella stays on board to end the threat. She sacrifices herself by entering the ship's core and turning Jake's wrist weapon into a bomb. It detonates, obliterating the ship. With the aliens gone, the rescued townsfolk begin remembering their pasts. Still a wanted man, Jake chooses to leave, but the sheriff and Dollarhide decide to claim he was killed in the invasion. The citizens intend to rebuild their town.
So the film tries to tidy up this relationship between Dollarhide and his ranch hand.
That
his
does
name escapes
not
me.
sound good.
What am I supposed to say? It's a relationship.
The father-son
The
relationship.
dynamic. I don't know. Okay. Well, they
Whatever they had.
they
Makes it
try
sound like
to
some sort of never mind, I'm not going to go there. But
Anyway.
Yeah, they try to he tries to pull in this, I don't know, the actual father and son that never was, and the whole movie's playing on the fact that Paul Dano is kind of just this
Worthless.
terrible person, and for some reason Dollarhide keeps getting him out of all the crappy situations he finds himself in, when the true person that really respects him and looks up to him, he's blinded to.
Yeah.
And that character is Nat.
Whoa.
I thought this was kind of half-assed. I didn't really feel anything. If this had been developed more, I would have liked it.
I feel like half-assed is being generous. This was just slapped in with 2 lines trying to make a sub-theme or subplot.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's the smallest of what we have going on right now.
We didn't really talk about Ford's performance, actually. I feel like it almost seems like half the time people say Ford kind of phones in his performance. And I don't know if that's just him being him, like kind of resting on his laurels being Harrison Ford. We kind of compare him to Indiana Jones and Han Solo. I mean, those are the height of his performances, really.
Yeah.
I don't think he did terrible in this. It just wasn't impactful that we were expecting, really punchy performance from him and from Daniel Craig.
Yeah.
I think he did a good job trying to kind of separate himself from the Indiana Jones moniker, because that's very hard to leave behind. And at least in this character, I saw a vague inkling of the Western character he could be. I would love to see him in another Western where it's just purely a Western. And I think he would be a very enjoyable character.
I think he fits the Western narrative really well. He just the way he speaks and the way he holds himself fits this landscape, and he never quite got that perfect role in this, even though he fit it. And he always wanted to have a Western movie or a Western show that he could be a part of, and he never got it. And now he finally gets one, and it's kind of sad that this is what he was kind of dealt.
hey, as long as he's happy, though.
It could have been worse.
He had fun.
Yeah.
But you know what this movie is, though? I was just thinking about it, and it came to me. This is the payoff movie of a short series. You know what I mean? Like a mini series where they set everything up, and like, you know how Firefly has its
Season finale.
So you think there was a first season of a show before this?
yeah,
And this is
then this is like that payoff.
This is like the fan service movie.
yeah, it's kind of it's that vibe. It's
So you're saying you get a Serenity vibe from this?
a little bit, yeah.
I would say Serenity's much better.
It is.
But
It is better, but it's that kind of like, oh, this is a TV show movie.
yeah, you feel like
You
there's
know?
more that you're missing, and this is just what's given
Yeah.
to you as like.
I guess
let's close it out.
seeing the ending that we got here, I see where they were trying to take this. We just didn't ever follow the right path.
Yeah.
And it's saying
Yeah.
something that Percy, of all characters in this, has the best developed character arc.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely like Percy's character. He comes full circle. He's not a main character, but you get the sense that, yeah, this guy can be reformed, I guess. And he was one of the few characters that I believed that he could end up being a better person because of the events that transpired.
It's just strange that you saw him for 5 minutes in the beginning and then 4 seconds at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll say this final action sequence is pretty well done. As far as if you just isolate it as action,
Yeah.
It delivers the goods. All the money is on the screen. The version I watched, which was the extended cut, was, I feel, much bloodier than the version we got in theaters. There's decapitations, stabbings, blood splatters. I was actually surprised by how brutal it was. I don't know how different it actually is from the original because it's been so long since I saw that movie in theaters. But there was a lot of stuff I saw here that was, I would say, slightly R-rated.
Another credit to the direction here, going off of your comment on this final scene, is that I know Jon Favreau and those working on this really wanted to make sure that these characters approached this in a realistic way that would be appropriate for the time period. And I think they did do a really good job with that, trying to figure out a plan that cowboys and Indians would have to group together and create. And so the whole using dynamite and trying to find sort of a weak spot to climb up to and start off from there, trying to find vantage points. I think that that was really well done and well conceived.
Yeah, I think the whole message of this movie is, if there's some big threat to humanity, we can all put aside our differences, band together, because in the end, we're all on the same team, even though we have our disagreements. It's like that was like, it's very wonky and not completely successful with delivering that message. But I feel like that was like their grand plan to be like, oh, we can all just get along if there's an alien invasion abducting our people.
We can band together and we can solve it.
Yeah.
I also like how it's just one ship, though, that's here. Like, one's enough.
Yeah, I do kind of like the camo effect. Even though I feel like if you lived around this area, you'd be like, hey, what's that? I don't remember that rock there. I just traveled by these parts last week.
Final thoughts. I guess Ella's death was really the only outstanding thing.
Yeah.
She's...
didn't feel anything. No, no emotion whatsoever.
I think I like the concept of her being self-sacrificing, but I know we talked about this before and we felt that Jake should have been more of the sacrificial lamb here.
Yeah, he's set up throughout the movie as like the one to die.
So his death would have more meaning than hers because we don't know her story. We just are kind of given little snippets.
She can continue her alien race instead of go extinct.
Yeah. There's a more interesting story here where she survives and Jake dies, where she lives on to impart her knowledge to the people of Earth. Perhaps prolong her race, perhaps,
continue on a secondary course if there was a sequel.
Yeah. And it just works with, as you said, Jake's character a lot more because he's got nothing left to live for, but he's found a new love. He doesn't want her to die. And he has no real reason to be a part of this world anymore.
Yeah.
Other than to save her and the people of this town. So yeah, it's just weird that that's flip-flopped.
Yeah, I don't really want to follow Jake Lonergan after this. I don't really feel anything.
Although at the same time, it's kind of a clean slate to do whatever they want with him. So
no, I want to see him
would be
his memory wiped again, and he's just having flashes of both of them dying.
What if he goes to the next town? Oh my gosh! What if he goes to the next town in the sequel, and it's just he settles down again, and then.
No.
It's their second ship they're sending out for gold.
He wanders into the next town and he sees a little kid getting beat up on the side of the road and he's getting some water from a well.
He just watches them.
Yeah, he just watches them. And then he kind of bids all the families against each other.
Fits full dollars? Okay. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about Cowboys and Aliens, give our brief reviews, and talk about this franchise as a whole. So we'll see y'all then. Welcome back.
Yeah, baby.
David, you've got our bowl of scores here, which you're going to pull at random. We'll give our brief reviews. After that, we'll talk about this franchise.
Yeah.
All right. First off is Reese.
I gave this movie a 5.5. It is just bare minimum. It functions as a Western, and it functions as a sci-fi, but it does not do anything exceptional in either of those genres. I feel like Jon Favreau's goal was to blend them in a convincing way, but not to add anything unique or exciting on top of that. Mm-hmm. And he succeeds in his goal of blending these genres. They work together. You have an alien in a Western, and it somehow doesn't feel weird. So congratulations for that. But on top of that, I don't care about the characters. I don't really care about the story. Mm-hmm. There's a couple of side character arcs that are successful, particularly Percy and Sam Rockwell's Doc. I kind of like him as well. Mm-hmm. But other than that, it's not that memorable. It's just overall generic. I guess it's a diversion. I can kind of have fun with it, but this is not. It's never going to be a movie where I'm like, yeah, I'm really in the mood to watch Cowboys and Aliens. Like. The title alone clues you into what this is. It's lazy in a way, even though a lot of work was put into it.
Yeah.
Like what do you title something like this? Yeah, there's cowboys and there's aliens. It's exactly what you're getting. You're not getting anything more or less than that. And for that, it lands itself with a mediocre 5.5 in my opinion.
All right.
Cool.
Next score. Noah.
Hey, it's me. I also give it a 5.5. This movie is generic, mediocre, and if you had to put a phrase for it, nothing ventured, nothing gained. That's all I've got.
That was short and sweet.
Yeah.
And effective.
Like it.
Next up, Irina.
All right, I'm giving this one a 7 because I don't know. I like to give movies credit that have put a whole lot of work into what they do. And I think Jon Favreau is really trying to be authentic. I think his problem is, from all the interviews I've looked into about him, is he kind of listens to other people too much. Mm-hmm. I think he tries to be an accommodating director in some ways, to the point where it kind of drowns out his own voice as a director. And apparently Steven Spielberg had a lot of influence for this movie too, which
can't trust him
Steven
anymore.
Spielberg is a great director, but he is his own director.
Not with Harrison Ford and Aliens.
Yeah.
But he's
2 strikes.
I think this is the problem I'm seeing in this, is that Jon Favreau is almost looking too much to the greats to create his own unique film. And that's where this one goes astray. Not to mention the title, I think, isn't very accurate to the mood that he's trying to go for.
No.
It seems too comic. And I know it was based on a comic book, which ironically wasn't a successful comic book. So I think the reason it kept the name was to try and draw that audience out of a fan base where there really wasn't a big fan base. And so I'm gonna stick with my 7.
All right. AJ is next.
All right, so I think I gave this a 6.5 originally. I'm probably going to take this down to a 6. Mm-hmm. I do appreciate the novelty of this movie, the new frontier, so to speak, of it, the blending of the genres. I remember distinctly wanting to see this movie, buy the trailer of it. You know, you've got big names, Craig and Ford, and Cowboys and Aliens. It seemed interesting, seemed cool, even if it wasn't maybe the most, thought-provoking movie, but whatever. But those performances of those big names just kind of fell flat for me. It was disappointing, and we just got kind of an unfocused story, trying to do too much, like I said. Visually, it looked cool. It was entertaining visually as well. The action parts were fun to watch. I would, if this was on TV, I'd probably stick around for some of the more actiony sequences and watch it, but I wouldn't sit through this whole story again intentionally. I think we've said it all, really. It tried to be new. I think it was probably hurt a little bit by its source material also being mediocre. And like Irina said, Favreau's kind of tried to be a crowd pleaser and also, trying to appease to everybody. And we just didn't have a clear vision or strong direction setting forth what this should have been. Even if it was overly simplified, I think it would have been stronger in the end. And especially like David brought up, if this had a strong score, it could have been quite a bit better, more entertaining, more impactful. But as it stands, no real emotional impact, just kind of cool looking visuals and action, and not a great story.
Right.
Agreed.
I think I gave it a 6.5 last time we recorded, but I honestly don't remember.
You did.
But I'm gonna drop it to a 6. I'm having a hard time even looking at the screen right now with it on in the background. It's just not a movie I want to revisit, and it is not rewatchable. It's not at all. And
But you could take a picture of any scene.
yeah,
and
you're right. It does have some of those aspects to it. The cinematography was great. Whoever was in charge there was really on point, but everybody else kind of dropped the ball. And I love Jon Favreau just as much as the next person, but this movie just didn't do it for me. And in the end, I want a movie that I can rewatch and that I have a lot of fun in all the action sequences. And I don't even think I had as much fun as AJ or Irina in this. It's not one that I would ever really want to revisit ever again. So 6.
So 6 is actually pretty high for what you just said.
6 is high, yeah. And I would only give that because it was well made, and I do have a lot of respect for
the way
Jon
you
Favreau.
said that,
It was well.
Do you know
made.
what though? This is a movie that it lays the groundwork for something more. I feel like if you had a sequel that built upon this in a successful way, and was better than this one, this is a movie that is not bad enough that a sequel could retroactively improve it.
Yeah.
It's like it's not great, but it could really be assisted by a more visionary direction going forward. So I'll just say that.
And to quote AJ from the previous recording, there is a good movie in there somewhere. Like there are the bones in there, but
the ideas are there.
But they just didn't put it together the right way.
I almost feel like if you used almost like a B-list cast instead of an A-list cast, who maybe put a little bit more effort in over-emoting and just making you feel the characters', emotions and growth, and pare down some of the overly jammed-in themes they're trying to do, just make this more streamlined, it would have worked.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so let's move on to critics. On Rotten Tomatoes, this movie has a 44%. With an audience score of 43%. It's one of the few times that audiences are exactly on the same level as critics. Mixed overall. Metacritic 50 with an audience score of 5.9. Again, there's that synergy there between critics and audiences. And it totally makes sense too, because this movie, you can't just be like, yeah, this is bad, and you also can't be like, oh, this is amazing. It's just kind of a But on IMDb, which is an audience-based score, it also has a 6.0. So right on the
Money.
the fence there.
And just to mention, that's what we're at as a group as well, 6.0.
6.0.
All right.
Awesome. All right, so moving on to the box office. We're not going to play the box office game because we already did that.
yeah, buddy.
I actually don't remember who won.
I did.
Yeah,
I got it right on, but I
Yeah,
can't
so-
remember what it was, so let's not do it.
For the records, Noah won the box office game in our lost episode. But
What
I'm
was
going
it,
to
like
go.
170 or something like that?
Yeah. It
Yeah,
was,
okay.
175. It was you guessed it right on the money.
I guessed
Yeah.
it right on the money last
So
time.
yeah, the budget
I was
was
so proud of myself.
The budget was 163 million, and its worldwide box office was 175 million. It actually did almost okay in the U.S., grossing around 100 million. But westerns are notoriously bad performers overseas, so it only grossed an additional 75 million worldwide, which your typical blockbuster, especially one like this, would either match the U.S. total or even double it.
Yeah.
But that did not happen here in this case. So we are left with a bomb, so to speak. This movie did not spawn a sequel. There was no, laid out plans for a sequel, but you have to imagine that Cowboys and Aliens is a franchise title if I've ever heard one. If this movie had made 400 million, 500 million worldwide, I guarantee you by today we would have had Cowboys and Aliens, at least 3 of them.
Oh.
Like
we would have gotten Aliens and Cowboys, Cowboys and Cowboys,
Cowboys and Aliens versus Predators.
Yeah, and that graphic novel would still be going. There'd be multiple runs of that. But yeah, the movie unfortunately bombed and only got mixed reviews. It's not the most horrific, tragic story in box office history, but
a disappointment for sure.
Yeah, just like the movie, it's muted. Everything about this movie is just muted, mediocre, middle of the road. What other M words do you have?
Mercutio.
Yeah.
That's
thanks,
a name,
David.
David.
So yeah,
So do we want to say honorable death or dishonorable death?
I would say honorable death. It doesn't have any post-credits sequence that teases the future. The only strand left open is Olivia, not Olivia Wilde, but Ella alive or dead. We've seen her reborn in the fire. She dies in the fire again. Is that supposed to be a kind of open-ended, like, oh, is she alive or is she dead? That's the only kind of strand there that could be questioned.
Possibly.
I think she's
something.
meant to be dead as far as this movie is concerned. However, they would be able to resurrect her if they wanted to.
So that's the point, I guess, that Reese is trying to make, is that it's honorable in that fact.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can leave this movie alone and it doesn't demand a sequel.
Yeah.
So honorable.
Yeah, I'd say honorable.
Yeah.
It's an honorable death for this one.
I guess.
I deem
I
honorable.
guess.
Yeah. And weirdly, as much as I was completely meh on this movie, I would welcome another crack at a concept like this. I think there's something there. It's just they didn't deliver on it in this first installment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, whatever. Hey, try Cowboys and Aliens again. Just don't call it Cowboys and Aliens. Give it some cool title that you're going to look back on
Alien Cowboy.
as a classic. Yeah. No.
Lonergan.
No.
That's like an Asylum level title.
Wait. But hear me out. It's
Andrew
a
said
space.
Space Cowboys. He's onto something.
That
That
pretty
definitely
close.
is not a movie that exists.
But yeah, just imagine like a alien cowboy in space.
Yeah.
New Frontier
true.
and Final Frontier.
Yeah, it'd be good.
All right. Anyway, you can find our podcast on any podcast streaming app that you listen to. We have a YouTube and Spotify channel with curated tracks from the soundtracks of the various films that we've covered.
And
We have
title.
We have an Instagram page that David is responsible for, and he's always responding to all of your comments.
He's very
active.
responsive.
He's
there.
to blame for
Thousands
it.
of you out there.
Yeah, he's to blame for all the crimes on the Instagram.
Yeah, sorry guys.
Yeah,
So if there's a typo, it's him.
Yeah, we're open to franchise suggestions even. So if you have suggestions, hit up our Instagram, and
Pop on our
give us
DMs,
know.
man.
give us some cool ideas. Maybe we'll consider them. If you like what you hear, please follow, subscribe, rate, like wherever you listen to your podcasts. Every little gesture helps. Next week, we are breaking into the Dollars trilogy.
Dollar bills, y'all.
Dollar bills. Beautiful. Perfect. So next week it's A Fistful of Dollars, which is the first of 3 films in the Dollars trilogy or the Man with No Name trilogy, whichever you prefer. It's both.
I like money.
So yeah, it's already recorded. It is a very good episode, and yeah, we're excited about it. Anyway, stay tuned. We'll see you guys. Goodbye.
Bye.
What kind of man goes around blowing up other people's cows, then tells a bullcrap story like this? You couldn't do no better?